Hello. Today I will be discussing a voice type that is somewhat uncommon in the opera world today, the Leggiero tenor. This presentation will cover the characteristics, history, and the struggles of this instrument. What is a Leggiero? A Leggiero is characterized as a tenor flock, which is another word for a voice type in German. A leggero has the following qualities: flexibility, upper extension up to and beyond an E flat 5, athleticism, and it is a smaller voice type. So, these voice types can navigate long legato passages as well as fluid coloratura. Um, they have extreme dynamic contrast, and of course, they have a wide range. Voice identification. Misclassifying a voice can lead to serious vocal damage. It is important to make sure that not only the leggero tenor, but any voice type has a proper technical foundation before being classified. And it is also important that they are at an age where they can be classified. Being classified is as a teenager is dangerous because it is most likely wrong. They have not reached their full development yet, and it is possible for the voice to change. Having a technical foundation includes being able to breathe properly into the diaphragm and into the ribs. Um, it's important that they know how to support, um, and it is important for them to have grounding and proper posture. Once they have this, one can listen for the following in order to classify this voice. They must listen for timbre, how rich or dark or how light the voice is, intensity, that has to do with volume, and where the passaggio lies. The passaggio refers to the passage in the voice, or the shift from the lower to middle register and the middle to upper register. So there are two passaggios. Um, so as you can see in this diagram from Richard Miller's book, Training the Tenor Voice, he shows us over on the left the chest mechanism. This is the lower voice. This is generally the speaking range, both for women and for men. There is mostly thyroarytenoid involvement. This is responsible for chest voice, and it shortens and thickens the vocal cords. Then we have the lower middle voice. It is a mixture between the thyroarytenoid being involved and the cricothyroid, which is responsible for head voice. It elongates the vocal cords, it stretches them. Then between the lower middle voice and the upper middle voice, we have the first passaggio. Here it lists the primo passaggio as D4. For a tenor, a leggero tenor, it is generally around an E flat, so it's pretty close, but just a little bit higher. Then we have the upper voice. We have the secondo passaggio there, the second passage, which they list as a G4. For a leggero tenor, again, it's just a little bit higher. It is an A flat 4, generally speaking. And it has increased cricothyroid action. So we see a headier mix here. And then followed after that is falsetto. It is almost completely cricothyroid involvement, and it can never be developed past that point. It will always sound very feminine. It will always sound very light. It's often very breathy. We will explore the difference between a full voice connection and the falsetto. So why is it so difficult to classify a leggero? Um, so first, they possess a baritone-like quality in their lower range. That's right, a baritone-like quality. Um, which is confusing for many voice teachers. They also have a timbre in the upper range that can be confused as falsetto because it's lighter than what they expect. To demonstrate this, I will play this video. So, as you can see, there is a clear difference between Lawrence Brownlee and this countertenor that is singing. Lawrence Brownlee is a Leggiero tenor, and he has a full voice connection on a high F, whereas this countertenor is singing in falsetto. Another great example is William Mariuzzi, who is also a Leggiero tenor. So again, there is a timbre change in the upper register. However, it is a full voice connection. It is not falsetto. Now we have the origins of the Leggiero. The Leggiero became popular during the bel canto era alongside the castrati. The castrati, however, were more popular than the tenors, and tenors often played lesser roles such as fathers, servants, comedic roles, etc. Castrati most often played romantic leads. Ornamentation was very popular. Therefore, the singer could add high notes and other coloratura to show off, and virtuosic singing was preferred. Uh, Many composers wrote specifically for the singer. The singer was often paid more than the composer themselves, um, so it was important for them to be able to show off their voice. So a great example of this is Bellini's I Puritani. We listened to a little bit of this with Lawrence Brownlee, but in this there is a high F that many tenors do. In this, we will see the difference between a leggero tenor and then a lyric tenor and the full voice connection versus a connection that is much more falsetto based. So first, I'm going to play you Pavarotti. He is a lyric tenor. He is not a leggero tenor, and you will see the difference in this upper range compared to Lawrence Brownlee. So as you can see, Lawrence Brownlee has a fuller chest connection than Um, Pavarotti does. This is due to his high extension. Pavarotti certainly can sing those notes beautifully, but it is more of a falsetto than a full voice connection.
Hello again, caller.
Um, Mozart and the Leggiero. Um, Around Mozart's time, castrati became teachers because they were no longer popular. Many castrations became outlawed. It was no longer stylish to castrate young boys to become singers, but the ones that were left became teachers. They taught these tenors. They taught them how to ornament properly. They taught them how to do coloratura in general. And Mozart started to create roles that were well suited to the tenor voice rather than the castrato voice, such as Don Ottavio from Don Giovanni. They took over the romantic lead much more so than the castrato or the countertenor. Um, it is extremely difficult to navigate the coloratura and long passages that Mozart writes. This is true for any voice type singing Mozart, um, but the tenor stays in a very high tessitura. As you can see in this passage, he has to hold out this note for a very long time, followed by a florid passage. You must have impeccable technique in order to sing these passages. There should not be any extra added heft, false heaviness. Um, or any tension in this. Otherwise, the singer will not be able to make it through this passage. Okay, so as Rossini grew to prominence along with Donizetti, uh, Rossini really wrote a lot for this particular voice type. There was so much coloratura in these roles. And because of this, Leggeros soon became known as Rossini tenors because they were just so perfect for these roles. Um, a fuller chest resonance was applied on upper notes. Um, and Rossini wrote in more of the coloratura. There was less choice involved with the singers. They couldn't choose when they wanted to sing a high note. So a great example of this is Ecco Ridente in Cello. These are both sung by Juan Diego Flores, who is a leggero tenor. He is able to project out due to his squillo. He does not sacrifice his voice in any way, and yet he is still able to project. And then here is Cenerentola.
Senti, così la troverò. Si ridomanda io giuro, amore, amor mi muore, se fosse in tempo a Giove, io la ritroverò, se fosse in grembo a Giove, la troverò, così la troverò.
So, as you can see, very many florid passages, high notes, many opportunities to show off. Um, So then we come to the decline of the leggero tenor. Composers like Verdi and Wagner were no longer interested in vocal virtuosity. Instead, they wanted more drama. And in order to do this, you didn't really need a super high range to sing this. It was better to have a larger voice to convey the dramatics and the lush romanticism. There was no need to show off in the upper range. Instead, it was shown with emotions, with volume. And this continued into the 20th century with Puccini and even some modern composers. Challenges today. American houses such as the Met are too large. The Metropolitan Opera has 3,800 seats and it is stadium seating. It is a long way to sing, not to mention they have to sing over an orchestra. And with each production, as it moved forward in time, the orchestras became bigger and bigger. In Rossini's time, they weren't as large, but by the time it came to Wagner, the orchestras had grown a lot. Um, and also, the Met in particular plays more romantic and modern operas than Rossini and Mozart operas. Um, La Boheme is its most popular opera. It's been performed over 1,100 times um, while it's been around. And The Barber of Seville is its most popular opera with a Leggiero tenor in it, and it has only been performed 630 times, and it has been around longer than La Boheme. Um, Another challenge that the Leggiero tenor faces is training this voice type is sometimes a long and arduous process. They have a lot of questions that not many people can answer because this is a mysterious voice type. It is very confusing. On the topic of training, they must have a proper technical foundation. They must learn proper breathing and support. It is extremely important for Leggeros to sing without tension. In order to reach that upper extension, they cannot have tongue or jaw involvement. They cannot use these to support the sound instead of grounding and breath support. Um, in the early days of their development, the thin adduction will eventually grow to be that full chest voice connection that everyone desires. But at first, it will sound more like falsetto. Even in these developed singers we listen to today, such as Lawrence Brownlee and Mariuzzi, you could still hear the timbre change, but they were further developed than others. Falsetto cannot grow, but this thin adduction can. And they must not sing with too much subglottic pressure, or else, again, they will not be able to reach their upper extension, which is very desirable. They will not be able to sing the coloratura passages that makes them stand out. In conclusion, the Leggiero voice possesses so many strengths that sets them apart from other voice types. There are not many other voice types that can do coloratura like this. There are no other voice types, um, in the male voice parts that can go up that high. It is exciting when it is done correctly and when there is not any extra pressure. And even though the process can be long, it is worth it. And even though American houses prefer the larger instrument, it does not mean that crowds are not excited by these voice types and their virtuosity. And that concludes my presentation.